I could have you do it.
How are you?
I'm good. I am doing all right. Yeah. It's a lot. It's an intense time. I've got so many students. 2 of them are here, which is really cool.
Exciting.
Yeah. Sherry, your name looked familiar, but I'm not sure I've met you. I think you're muted. How many times have you heard people say?
Did you hear what I said? That's a good point before. I used an obscenity. But anyways, no, I don't believe we've met. I live in Detroit. I'm from Detroit.
Oh, okay. Born and raised in Cleveland, along with Brian.
There you go.
In one of the boxes over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Same kind of place.
Right. That's really neat. So do you attend these literary events?
I've just started. I retired a few years ago, and we were living small, traveling the country, and COVID hit. So things I've always wanted to do, write. So, and I'm also a nurse, and I found your memoir very interesting. So,
oh, okay.
I thought I would
so you
attend.
just happened to find it on your own.
I follow Pat Conroy's Literary Center on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I saw it there. But I'm about halfway through with your book. So I'm enjoying it. It's a very different perspective than a nurse. I have a lot of hospice experience. So.
Oh, I'll be really interested in your questions and your comments then. That would be good. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure because I did a speaking engagement at with Henry Ford Hospital in Michigan.
Oh, that's who I retired from.
Oh, really? I spoke to their ethics committee, and it was a group. It was wonderful. It was gosh, I guess that was in the spring of 2020, right after soon after the book came out. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But right when, because the book came out on Valentine's Day of 2020, and I think I spoke for them in April of 2020, so it couldn't be in person. So that's why when you said Michigan, I thought, oh my gosh, do you have a connection with that ethics committee? But no, but it's through this that you found out. That's great.
Oh, thank you.
That's
thank
wonderful.
You.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to tonight.
Good, good. Where can you tell me where in the book are you? Do you remember?
Yes, your father has just died.
Okay.
And you're at the airport and you find out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
finding out all kinds of things at airports.
No, he falls, breaks his hip at an airport, and then this at the airport. But so you should avoid airports.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a chapter later in the book called "Relearning to Fly" about airports. So that's why I wasn't sure. But you're at a different. I think you're in a different chapter. So.
Yes, I am. I believe so.
All right. Deborah, are you ready?
Sure.
We're live. We're live now.
Terrific.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Brooke McKinney, the Communications and Events Coordinator with the Pat Conroy Literary Center. And welcome to our evening with Deborah J. Cohan, who is a professor of sociology at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort, and the author of Welcome to Wherever We Are, a memoir of family, caregiving, and redemption. A public sociologist, she also writes for Psychology Today and is regularly featured in national media, including CNN, MSN, Teen Vogue, USA Today, US News, and World Report, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Cohan is trained in mindfulness and healing work and facilitates Deep River workshops. Welcome, Deborah, and thanks for being here. I'm also going to post your website into the chat here so everyone can see, so they can learn more. Also, throughout the evening, you're all welcome to post questions and comments in the chat, and I can relay those questions and comments to Deborah, and she can answer whatever questions you might have. So let's get started. Deborah, if you're ready, you can take it from here. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is really special. Of course, everyone's heard of Pat Conroy and everyone seems to have heard of this center, and to have it right in our backyard is just, we're lucky, you know, it's a gem. So I appreciate that you've done what you've done to bring authors like me together, and to people who are really scattered across the country, in California, in Michigan, Ohio, South Carolina. You know, I'm seeing people from all over. So that is super exciting. Thanks for putting up my my website, and also you can email me through that. I'd love to be in touch. And if you have questions or things you want to talk about, writing wise or whatever wise, happy to do that. So I'm hoping for a conversation too. I mean, one of the things that's really fun about these events is the chance to really build a sense of a literary community, which the Literary Center is all about, and to have these conversations where you can, you know, ask an author about the writing process, about content, about anything really. You know, memoir is, the commitment to writing memoir is like, you know, running naked in the street. So you kind of have to be okay with questions and a sense of that like openness and curiosity. And I certainly feel that way about my work and about my life. And so I'm here to share that with you. So I will be telling you a little bit about the book and then doing some short reading from it. But I really do encourage you to stop me, ask a question, and you know, you'll also be my guide for this. As I say, it's really the most fun, and you know, the biggest joy was when the book was published, that, you know, I got to start a national book tour, and I did that for basically a month, and I was all over the place. And then COVID hit, and we're doing it from these kinds of locations. And that has also been amazing, because I've gotten to connect with people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to show up as easily in person. And so that's really fun. So I'm glad that this is happening and that you're sharing part of your evening with me. So the book, for those of you who haven't read it, because I don't assume that anyone's read it at all. Plus I teach college, so you got to remember that people aren't always reading. Although the students who are on this is not directed to you. I know you do, because I know your work. But this is really, this is a book that's really like a meditation on what we hold on to and what we let go of, and how we remember other people, and how in turn we're remembered by others, and also by ourselves, for ourselves. And it's a meditation on the sense of home, on what home even is. Like, how do we live in our homes? How do we grow in our homes? How are we sometimes constrained or stifled and trapped in our homes? How do we remake a sense of home for ourselves, you know, with ourselves, maybe with another person who we love, or, you know, come to want to spend our lives with. So the book is really that. It's really this meditation on home, and this meditation on memory and letting go. And in doing this memoir, I'm really puncturing family secrets. I am cutting to the core of two really big things that are happening for many people across the country, across the globe. You know, issues of domestic violence, and also issues of caregiving for an ill and elderly parent. So it's a braided story of those two dimensions, the domestic violence and the caregiving. But I bring to it something that not everybody does who tells a story like this, which is that I'm a trained sociologist. I teach sociology, like Brooke said, at the university. And I also spent many, many years working as a domestic violence counselor for violent men, and also worked with survivors. So I bring this kind of what's seen as, you know, expert knowledge to bear on my own story. So I'm both telling the private story, my personal issues and struggles and stuff with this, and there all these intimate details, but I'm also putting it in the context of these larger patterns and trends and issues that relate to the social structures in our lives. The book also touches on other things, which is why I think so many people tell me, and I'm always so happy when I hear this, they say, your book is so relatable, even though I never went through any of that. And I'm like, yes, that's because that was really, you know, that's the point of memoir, is the some of the universality of it, and the fact that it's not just about domestic violence and caregiving, which could seem sort of depressing or dark or something. It's also about marriage, about divorce, about remarriage, about finding love after 40. Yes, it's possible, very, very possible. Wink, wink to those who really need to hear it most. And it's also really about other kinds of things that are happening demographically that are interesting. You know, for example, when I was born in '69, so, and I was born as an only child and in Cleveland. And at that time, there were few only children. It wasn't very common. Now it's totally common. But only children are in a unique position for caregiving for parents. So I have that going on in the book as one thing. The other thing is that I'm in a relationship with someone who lives several hours away from me. And that's a new phenomenon relatively in the culture, this whole LAT, you know, living apart together kind of situation. So I'm speaking to both of these situations, really all of these situations, both through the lived experience as well as through the sociologist talking. And the other thing that I think is really probably one of the bigger contributions of the book, and from what people tell me, it's the part that they learned sometimes the most from, which is that my book is not about, really, it's not about physical or sexual abuse. It's about verbal and emotional and psychological abuse, financial abuse, and also threats. And when you think about a lot of the memoir and also the movies and things that deal with the topic of family violence and other forms of violence against women and stuff, the emphasis is always on physical and sexual violence. And it's very rarely on these other pieces, which are central. And they're also central actually to physical and sexual violence too. So uncovering them and really trying to understand them is super important. And plus threats are really important to understand as well, because someone need not do something terrible to be scary. It's just the fact that it could happen, this sort of looming sense over your head that like something bad could still happen. The risk of that is ever present. So that there's something really abusive and controlling about threats themselves. So that's kind of the flavor of the book. And I think what I'm going to do is just jump into read a piece, if that sounds good. Any questions before I do that? Okay. All right. I'm going to read from a chapter called The Gold Pen, which first appeared as a chapter in a book called Letting Go. It was an anthology with a lot of other sociology chapters in it. Mine was sort of the least academic, if you will, of the pieces probably. And then it got picked up by Utne Reader. I was really excited. They chose it to reprint it, which was wonderful. And then I decided to use it in the book. What's interesting about this chapter is it really doesn't deal with my dad's abuse as much as it deals with issues of caregiving, and also me coming to my own sense of creativity and what it means to be a woman trying to create art in the world. And I want to just highlight for you something interesting, which is that the part of what I'm reading to you was never edited. It went right from a legal pad that I was using at my dad's bedside to this book. And what happened was I kind of didn't realize it at the time, but I was like taking field notes. I mean, I was writing at his bedside, trying to make sense of things, keeping notes to myself, writing notes in the hotel room, lots of different places, scribbling them on napkins, stuffing them in folders. So the writing process was messy in a certain way, but it's to show you a technique of writing, which was to almost use my own field notes in the actual making of the book. So that's just where this comes from, so you have a sense of it. Okay. In the spring of 2009, I wrote this as my dad took a nap. I watch you as you sleep, not unlike you probably watched me as I slept, as a newborn baby and as a young girl, in wonder, in awe, in calm, and in worry. A parent watches a child sleep with anticipation of a future. An adult child watches a sick parent sleep with a sense of the past. You are finally still and quiet. You, a man who I know is chaotic and loud. We rest in this calm as you fall in and out of slumber and as I grade papers. I need to study your face, memorize it, as I know I'll need it one day. Yet the you now is not the you I want to remember. In a few days, I'll be back with over 100 students, giving lectures, attending meetings, going to a concert, a lunch with a friend, a performance of the vagina monologues. And in my week ahead, I worry about being too busy, about running from one activity to the next, breathless. Yet one day, Daddy, you did this too, right? How would you restructure those days? What did you hope for? What do you hope for now? With your tongue half out of your mouth, you resemble a little boy with Down syndrome. You look tired, though I can't tell if you're tired of this life. Yesterday, I bought you coffee from Caribou with one of their napkins that made a jab at Starbucks that said, "Our coffee is smooth and fresh, because burnt and bitter were already taken." Whenever I see great lines and logos, I think of you. Your creativity still shines through as we leaf through metropolitan home and marvel at minimalist spaces. Your stained maroon sweatpants are pulled up halfway toward your chest and your stomach looks distended. Earlier today, I saw as you put imaginary pills to your mouth with your fingers, something I assumed to be a self-soothing ritual you performed after the nurse told you it was not yet time for more medication. Being in Cleveland, I'm surrounded by childhood friends, hanging out with their dads, younger men than you, in their 60s and early 70s, robust, athletic, energetic men vigorously playing tennis and golf, working, traveling, and chasing after their dreams, not figments of their imaginations in thin air. Oh, Daddy, your eyes open suddenly and you ask, "What are you writing?" I quickly respond, "Oh, nothing really, it's just for school." However, writing about my dad in front of my dad seemed like a profound act of betrayal, and it also felt mean. As I see it now, it helped me grieve and let go. Contained in a tight, unattractive physical space with my dad, enmeshed in his care in ways I probably should have never been, I was writing to untangle a knotty family narrative, to finally record and understand my experience as my own. By writing in front of him, I think something else happened that was necessary. I came to realize that all we had to give to each other was space, psychic space. Most importantly, I needed to give him quiet and space to eventually die. My dad's almost 8 years of debilitating illness made me grasp his final inability to help and to guide me. And that gave me the space that I needed to dream of what I wanted to do. Though he helped me and was involved in most major decisions I had made in my life, dementia forced him to check out. It also forced me to check in with how well I was writing my own life. I'll stop there for a minute before shifting to read something else, and to see if you have any questions or comments for me about what I've read. Anybody? Okay. Do you want to hear some more? Okay. All right. So, and Brooke, tell me if there are other questions I'm not seeing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to actually go to a different part of the book. This is, and I'm not going in order. And I'm kind of doing that purposely because the book also is written in a way that you could read it out of order. You could, you know, it's not so sequential. And this part is from earlier in the book, and it's a chapter called The Diaries. And in this, I actually found these diaries that I kept as a small child. And I really had forgotten that I even did it, because I haven't kept journals or diaries or anything. You know, I didn't do it as a teenager, as a young adult. But actually, it's funny because they're, I think they're right here. I was going to show you one of my, I'm having trouble reaching it, but I was going to show you one of my puffy diaries. It was like, I don't know if you remember these from the 70s, and like with, you know, puffy stickers on it and puffy plastic, and writing in these little diaries, kind of just like the size of a note card. But when I went back and unearthed this stuff, I really just, I was pretty wowed. I was like, whoa, you know, what does this little girl have to tell me now? What can I listen to? What can I be attentive to? And so the chapter is its exact word for word transcription from the diaries, interspersed with my adult voice reflecting on it. So I'm going to read you a fragment of this. And this is, I told you I was born in 69. So this was, and I was born in November of 69. And this is April of 79 that I'm going to start with. So that was a little. April 16th, 1979. I went out for another coffee, ice cream, soda. The glass was dirty with cherry gook all over it. Gross. Big messes, small messes. They've always made me nervous. May 6th, 1979. I had a Z day on a rating scale of A to F. Everyone was so mad. My mom and dad were mean to each other. My dad should be the one that should be blamed. Tomorrow there'll be 2 math tests. I've been scared all day. May 19th, 1979. Sometimes I feel that my parents don't understand me. How come I sometimes have so many fears, but I'm a happy child? Maybe I'm sensitive. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. My dad left for a business trip in Palm Springs, California. I hope I'm the champion in spelling, but I hate studying for tests because it makes me nervous. May 20th, 1979. I went swimming. I did a somersault in the deep end. I miss Dad. I had an A+ day. I love swimming. May 23rd, 1979. Only 2 more days till Dad comes home. I had a B day, but I got a card from my dad. May 24th, 1979. The boy I like talked to me. He is so cute. Dad is coming home tomorrow. I'm going to a birthday party tomorrow. May 25th, 1979. I went to the party. Dad came home. He got me lots of presents, like swim fins and a visor and a huge bag and a circus book with a poster and a big history book. May 27th, 1979. My dad poked a knife near my face. But I said I'd forgive him. I had a B day. I was trained early on to ride the cyclical waves of violence. I was swept up in the promise of seeing my dad return home, lured in by the excitement of his gifts and his love. Yet within 2 days of him being back, feeling again trapped by his rage. The tyranny of perfectionism that I felt inside and outside of my house was strangling. And I learned to ask, if only to myself, if I had done something or forgotten to do something that provoked him. He was always fast to apologize, and in turn, I learned to forgive quickly. I wonder how I could still rate the day a B when my dad did what he did. I'm gonna skip some dates just to get to the next part I'm gonna read. April 3rd, 1980. I ran away for 5 minutes. I even packed. Dad keeps saying, if you do that, I will lock your bicycle. April 17th, 1980. Today I got home 15 minutes late. Mom called me a little shit. I was so upset. Dad was angry because I didn't put away my shoes. So Dad was having his temper tantrum and looked like he was going to hit me. I was crying and then Dad had to talk with me. My father never hit me, but the perception that he could was always there. The threat was present, which actually felt scarier because it was always hanging over my head. Even at age 10, he looked to me like a child having a temper tantrum, a child who could hurt and bully me and make me feel bad. I wonder what my dad and I talked about that day. I imagine he explained the situation back to me using abuser logic, that if I had not been late and had put away my shoes, he never would have been angry. So ultimately it was my fault. But that maybe he overreacted and wanted my forgiveness. I wanted to be perfect in his eyes. I wanted his approval, his love, his kisses, and his telling me that everything would be okay. So I'm sure I forgave him. At least at that moment, I probably did. But years of doing that too often culminated in years of me later realizing I didn't need to forgive him or to forget. The last time I ever wrote in a diary was April 17th, 1980. I think I've spent the past 39 years trying to live and write truthfully out of that mess, living in some space between forgiveness and blame, between forgetting and memory. Sometimes, still to this day, as I'm driving alone, I imagine that seated beside me in the car is that precocious little girl who penned all those entries with piles of ringlets on her head, huge, curious, greenish gray eyes, her feet not yet touching the floor. And I try to remember to ask her what she needs now. If I'm quiet enough, open enough, I just might hear her whisper. So I invite you to ask me anything you want, say anything that's on your mind about what I've been reading. Happy to read more, but mindful of time and stuff as well, and people's evenings and things. So yes.
I'm actually curious. I think I understand why, but you know, the choice to not structure it any chronologically or with like a container of time. If you could talk more about that.
Yeah. That's a good question. You know, time is such a funny thing anyway. And I think we've really learned that with this pandemic. The time is really trippy and it sort of expands and contracts in funny ways and plays around with memory too. And we don't know what happened when. Well, for me, it's just that life is lived in fragments. I mean, that is what life is. You know, we remember snippets of things, like we can remember joyful moments and difficult moments, but we're never remembering, you know, even if, you know, we all did this as an exercise to remember a day last week. You know, you might remember a couple things that sort of punctuated the day, but you're not going to really remember it sort of in chronological order, like at this time I did this, at this time I did that, unless maybe you were looking back at a calendar or something and it was sort of jogging your brain for it. But then there's an aspect of that gets boring, because we don't really want to know. We might want to know some chronology, but we don't really care about all of it, as usually as readers or as viewers. We're more interested, I think, in how we make meaning of that stuff. So it feels like slices and snippets, and that chronology can be sort of overrated, but especially with memoir where it's not even really that necessary. And I guess as I'll say, as a reader, I love short essays. I love that like sort of crisp, clear essay that has me thinking, and that you know, in just like a few hundred words, a couple thousand words, it's like densely packed with a lot of stuff. And that's really how, you know, that's how the book started. That's how it grew up. I mean, there's a chapter in here titled Sugar. That was the very first chapter I wrote. The second chapter I ever wrote in this book was the gold pen that I shared with you. And with Sugar, I mean, for people who've read the book, I mean, I'm kind of all over the place in that chapter, but it's also like, it's everything. I mean, it's food memory, it's you know, it's friends, it's divorce, it's moving across the country to South Carolina from Boston, what's going to happen next in my life, it's thinking about wedding rings, it's thinking about, you know, all kinds of different things come into that. Issues of race and class are even you know, developed in that chapter, in terms of my thinking about the nurses and their relationship with him. And so it was doing that chapter and seeing how I could successfully pull a lot of different things together into this relatively short space, that then I realized, oh, that's interesting. And then I did the gold pen because I was actually just, you know, responding to a call for book chapters. I didn't know I was growing a book at that time. After those two, then I thought, wait, I think I'm actually onto something here, because here I'm talking about sugar, here I'm talking about the gold pen. Something's happening with like mundane objects, just daily things that we encounter in life. You know, sugar, that's all over the place, right? Pens, you know, and then that got me thinking about all these other objects that were totally evocative, and that brought up all this memory. And that's where, you know, I came up with this idea of the dinner table. That was huge for me. That might be one of my more favorite chapters in the book, actually. And then, you know, I talk about a red suitcase, and I talk about, you know, date books and televisions. And so it's one of those things where the literary device I'm using in this is called the objective correlative, where I'm basically taking these objects and they're standing in for something larger. It's symbolic, you know, and then like I'm really peeling away the surface layers and then looking really, really deeply, mining it for meaning, so that sugar is all the sweetness with my dad. It's all the tenderness. It's the cotton candy and the roller coasters we rode together at Cedar Point and all those fabulous things. And it's also the times when it was so sickeningly sweet that it made me sick, and the quick fixes and the apologies and the, you know, so there's, you know, all that kind of stuff that's brought into it. And I think that it was really, you know, the act of writing those two chapters that helped me develop the structure I chose for the book, and that also helped me to be okay with how time was, I was playing with time a little, you know, to get back to that part of the question. So does that help?
Yeah. I understand it conceptually, like as I was reading it, I know too just how time is warped, and so it's almost like a meta experience when you're reading it, right? Because of the function of memory. But I think because my brain, for control purposes, and I think this actually comes from my father, there's like an obsession with time, like to kind of piece things together. Even when I'm writing on my own or whatever, I'm just trying to understand like a timeline. So I just found it kind of simultaneously frustrating because of my own thing, and also fascinating, and also it makes a complete sense the way that you wrote it. So I was curious to hear just from you.
But you totally nailed it, because that was my feeling as I was writing it, and that was my feeling even when I was thinking about making it a book, was like, it was sort of maddening and frustrating to me, even thinking like, oh gosh, but then this means I've repeated myself. And so it sounds like my dad died again a few times. But actually he kind of does in a weird way. And I could address that later in the book too. So it's sort of, oh wow, you were talking about rain. Now it seems like my house might go floating away. And you're talking about torrential rains before. Wow. It's interesting here. I don't know if you all can hear the rain. Yeah, so it's a funny thing. I mean, I try to just realize, like, if I'm okay with the idea of people just picking up the book and, you know, reading this chapter and then another day picking up the book and reading that chapter, then it's okay, because it's really almost like a series of essays that are tightly anchored together and that do have that arc, but that could be read separately. But so I felt all those same things as a writer. The frustration, the fascination, intrigue, being satisfied with it, but also not sure. So I understand that. That's an honest response. Sherry, did you have your hand up before?
Oops. Yes, I did. I think I really liked the scene where your dad is eating the lemon birthday cake with the dirty nails. And you are discussing, or in your mind thinking about how you could not feed him, about your issue with feeding people. And at first I was like, pick up the spoon. As a nurse, you would just do that. But I see, as a person caring for their parent, how you wouldn't. And then the second point is about the dying, how you said your dad died here, died there. That's how it is, I believe. We all die in increments and in different ways. Certain times we're dying. And just because you're dying, it doesn't make you nice. That's been my theme in life. And I really think that's expressed quite well in your book, that your father's dying, but he's still calling people names. He's still being essentially who he perhaps was. I don't know, with the dementia playing in, what really is his personality versus the disease. But the part of it almost made me feel like there was this helplessness. You didn't know what to do. You brought this beautiful cake, and then it ends up being eaten by hands that are dirty or nails that are dirty.
Yeah.
I was really moved by that.
Yeah, I guess since you worked in the field for so long, maybe you were moved by it from the perspective of, like, you could see it, like it was visceral. The reaction was just like, that sense of, like, here's someone like eating their birthday cake, like with their feet on a floor that's, marked with like urine all over it, sticky. And it's just like, this is how we're having birthday cake now. Like, really?
Right.
Like, how is this even possible? And like, how did it end up this way? And I made this cake in Boston and brought it, because it was that sense of, this is what he would like. But trying to sort of make up for things and not really being able to.
Right.
Yeah,
and it was the death of the life he had. That's over. You've got the beautiful cake, but where are you and how is he? You know, I was it just was very moving to me.
Thank you. No, it's always helpful as a writer. I think the greatest gift that I've been given as a writer is to hear from readers the actual passages and lines that speak to them. And from any of my work, like this and other things I've written, that just like to know that gripped somebody is just
right.
I mean, that's like why I want to keep writing. So yeah, and I'm glad that you found it, you know, maybe true to what is also the whole I love how you said that, like just because someone's dying it doesn't make them nice. Like I think that's something really important to understand too, that a lot of times like people have this sort of rosy view of things, the same way people do when someone's widowed, like, you know, it's that then that person was the most wonderful spouse. Well, maybe that sort of like memory is a funny thing.
Right. I had a patient, and you know, you always pictures they show hospice, you're dying in a nice white bed, everything's in order. That's how we try to make it. That isn't how it works, but it's an ideal to try to achieve. But I've had patients, their dying breath, saying obscene things to their family and threatening them. And yeah, and I've had, it's like a person is who they are. And I've had people say, I just wish they'd hit me and then it would be diffuse this whole thing. People are a mystery.
It's so true.
I don't want to go on a tangent here.
No, I appreciate, but I also really appreciate the professional perspective that you bring to it as well. I think it's really, that's really helpful. Brian, you have your hand up. I see this little yellow hand.
I do. I think it's from all of my instruction and watching my students raise their hands and ask questions during the pandemic time. I do have a question for you. And I read the book and I thought the book was great. I read a lot of what you write. I think I probably read as much of what you write as Mike does. If Deborah wrote it,
he's probably like thinking, oh my gosh, well then come here and read it so I don't have to, or like, you know, yeah, because he's a good, yeah, he's definitely a first reader too. You're a very, very loyal reader though.
I do try. You know, I was blessed while you were writing to have some conversations with you about the book and about kind of where you were when you were writing it. And you made a comment earlier. You said, you know, you wonder if you're quiet enough, if you're still enough, if perhaps you can hear that 10-year-old girl whispering to you. My question is, what does today's Deb say and feel about what you shared in this book? You do so much academic writing. You shared so much of yourself in this book. And I'm just curious, what did you gain? And perhaps gain is not the appropriate word. What did writing this do for you? Did it free you up? You know, we're always talking about you know, trauma-informed instruction now as teachers, and we're talking about having scholars who experience trauma. What did this do for you, and how did it free you in a matter of speaking? And I'll wait.
Wow, whoa, that's such a good question.
You knew I couldn't come on. You knew I couldn't come on. You knew that I couldn't come on here and just let you talk and not ask you really good questions.
Oh, I mean, this is the thing. The minute I saw your face, I was like, oh gosh, because your questions are so compelling and provocative. And it's like, we could have a conversation over like tea or coffee or wine or something and just talk about all this kind of stuff for hours. It's like, it's so cool. Yeah, gosh. I mean, sometimes I have been thinking about that actually, like what would I say, like what does current Deb say to Deb in the book, even just in the same way Deb in the book was talking to Deb, the kid. And I've been thinking about it because I've been assigning this book. And so students who are actually here today have read the book in class. And I will say, I mean, that's been an opportunity to reflect on your question, which is this, what's it like to read about myself being sort of analyzed by students, and putting myself out there, that way so intimately with students, or reading about myself kind of as a character, essentially. And people who know me would say I'm quite a character, right? But I think that's the thing, though, that's one of the wonders of writing memoir and just writing in general, is that this was a meditation on letting go. And I think I have let some go. Like it doesn't, like, I really keep urging students, just please tell me what you think of this. Like, be honest, give me your responses, ask me questions, analyze it. Like it's, because I actually do feel, in a sense, like healthfully detached from some of it. So that's actually kind of a good thing. But because I really couldn't do this if I was still all enmeshed in it. And I think your question is such a good one. I feel really liberated, really, like that's what writing it did for me. It was very, very freeing. I know how freeing it was because I'm feeling in this, I'm working on my next book, which is a memoir related to my mother, who, just died a year ago, literally like last week, a year ago. And I find myself really like, I don't know, just thinking about it a lot. It's going through my brain a lot. And it's like, and I keep thinking, well, what if I can't write it? What if I'm not going to really get to make this into a book? And I keep thinking of all these things of, things I do want to write. And then of course, then the brain goes to the ways that it might not work and all that stuff. But then the key thing is, then I think to myself, oh, but look at how you healed, and look at how lighter and more liberated you feel after having this book, like, out of you and in the world, and what it's done for dealing with this grief. And that's why I know I have to write this book with and for and about my mom, because I want to feel that same way. So I know how profoundly it really did that for me, because it's like, this is much lighter now. And when I think about this writing for my mom, there's still this like heaviness that I'm trying to unravel and make sense of. It's a totally different kind of a book, though, because it's really like more of a meditation on her art and creativity, and how it shaped and changed her life, and then in turn how that shaped and changed my own. In this book, I talk about how terrified I am of my mother dying, and how terrified I am of, like, what's it going to look like when she's gone, and I look at all of her art. Will it just make me come unhinged? And it turns out it's done the exact opposite, and it's just been so healing and helpful. So I want to write about some of that. I remember, this is also something I think that's important, is that I remember some time ago reading this in a book, and then also being told it by someone I know, that when a parent dies, you feel more free. And I remember when I first heard that and read that, and I was kind of horrified, because it was like, free. I think I'll just be terrified. I'll be paralyzed. How would I go on in my life? Like, it's so formative. It's such an important relationship. And I mean, and Brian, you and we share parent loss, and we love and miss our parents every day. And so it's like, now I feel both and the book is completely a both and book. It's like, I love my dad and he did these things. Well, the other reality is my parents have both died, and I love and I miss them every day. And I totally wish they were here, and I feel freer. And it just kind of gives me some goosebumps even saying it, because there is an element of that sort of, I really it's like you're an adult like never before. And I feel like I'm far enough along with thinking about my dad to say that very confidently. With my mom, it's still a work in progress because she just died recently, but it's still this feeling of, they did what they were supposed to do, like launched me, and life went on, and here I am. So it's there's definitely something liberating. It's just so it was so arresting to me when I first heard that idea of parents dying and feeling free, and it was just so kind of revolted by it. And now I really, really see the wisdom in it, in a way that's not cruel. It doesn't mean that you don't that you want to not ever feel connected in that way, but it's that that your existence is in a different place too. And I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. It does. Thank you.
Does it? Okay. I mean, you can ask me anything. Yeah, sure.
I think Suzanne had a question too, right?
Oh, okay.
I just had a point of information whenever you were talking.
I've never seen your face. This is so cool. It's so good to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. Whenever you were answering Brian's question, I've often thought about what your thoughts were of your students interpreting you as the character. So I appreciate that, and hearing it from you firsthand, that experience. I'm sure our interpretation might not be maybe what you thought, so I just appreciate your thoughts on that. And thank you for asking it, Brian.
Do you have other questions for me though that you want to ask?
No, I think that I've told you, I think that this book came along for me in the perfect time, just as someone for the audience here, I just put we just put my mother in independent living just this week, because of Alzheimer's. And it's just been this book has been so helpful with a lot of internal things that dealing with and brought up. And it's kind of like my own guidebook in a way, which I really appreciate.
That's cool. Yeah, because it's right. It's not a how-to, but yet
no.
Another student said that it's like a toolbox. Yeah. Because it does sort of give you a lot of tools to think about, even though it's not it's not a how-to.
Right. I read it. I've read the book, as you've assigned the chapters and things like that, but also I was listening to it on Audible, going up to my son's soccer game in Columbia this weekend, just to, to go over some more chapters, and maybe if there were things that I missed and that type thing. And it's just been very eye-opening. And as someone else, I think Miss Logan had said earlier, people are who they are whenever they're, dying. And I think that sometimes a lot of people look for people to be different at the end, and, personality and disease, where it's mixing and, where it lands in that space. It's different for everyone. And I'm seeing that now firsthand. And, you address some of that in the book. And I just, I'm here because I appreciate it. And just want to say thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad if it's useful to you, especially at this kind of a time. It's that is that old saying. I mean, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm glad. Brian, we have a visitor, I see.
We do. He likes to pop in whenever the few times we've been on, he likes to pop in.
That's cool. That's very cool. You have someone else had a question, Millie?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, what advice would you give to a young writer about the risks and rewards of telling your truth in your writing?
That's a great question. And it's like the question through all memoir workshops and writing workshops. The advice would be write, and keep writing. And to just keep doing it, keep at it. I mean, it's a practice. You've got to just keep cultivating it. And probably the biggest gift I've really gotten with my writing it's really from my partner, from Mike, which is this just letting it go. It's like not every single word has to be perfect to send it out, to try it, to he's always saying, look, if they like it, they like it. If they want something changed, they'll change it. Like they'll ask you to do this. Just keep it moving. And the thing about it is that has been the thing that I would give as advice to any writer of any age, is to just keep it moving and to actually have things in all different stages of production, like in press, about to send out, all different, thinking of ideas, like all different types of stages of it. That's really, really helpful. But I would also say to just not worry about, oh gosh, so-and-so is going to read it, or so-and-so will be mad at me if they see this about themselves. Just to write it anyway, just keep writing. So someone else wrote, could I have written the book? Could you have written your book if your dad was alive? That is a really good question, because I was writing it as he was alive. Actually, Sugar was written several years before he died. Yeah, so like I was starting to I realized I wanted to write a book about this. I realized I had this story about caregiving and abuse, and I had what I felt was this very deep ethical responsibility to tell this story, because I could do it in a way that was personal and intimate, but that also could help people know that they're not alone, and also really have some information related to domestic violence dynamics, things like that, the average person doesn't always have access to that information. I don't know. I guess the question is, if he was alive, well, alive and well, or alive in the nursing home. So like, which did you mean? Sherry, which?
Alive and able to understand the book.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, see, here's the thing, is that I think if he were here today to read it, he would be pretty impressed. And I think he'd be proud. And I think parts of it he would feel were totally humiliating to him, especially the chapter accidents. And he would be absolutely mortified and disgusted and pissed and everything else. But he was also really, really proud. And so I don't know. I mean, I really wish he could read it. I so wish he could read it. But that doesn't mean that I would have been ready for him to read it when he was alive. And I wasn't ready to write it then either. That's also the other issue, is that I couldn't have really written this when he was alive, because so much of the story, so much of the healing and the letting go was also a result of, I got divorced, I moved across the country, I fell in love again. So it was like a lot of things had to change too. But I do wish he could have read some of it. I think it would have made him so sad in certain places, but I also think that he would have felt a little bit more understood, and I'm sure I would have felt a little bit more understood as well. because I don't think I don't give him a pass in the book. I hold him accountable, but I think with humanity and a multidimensional quality of like this tenderness too. I mean, if he missed how much I loved him reading this, I don't think he'd be able to miss it. Like everybody can see that there's like profound love and this complexity that I'm, forever wrestling with. But it's hard. I mean, people want to be big stars in a story in a certain way, but they also get nervous about it. That's true.
Thank
It's
you very
like
much.
What?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, yeah, it's an interesting dilemma for sure.
And your mother, did she have dementia? Or
that's a really good question. No, I'm glad that you asked that question. Especially since you're halfway through the book. So
you don't have to tell me the end of the book.
No, I won't. But since I've already told you that she died, what's interesting is at the end of the book, she's still alive, actually. And at the end of the book, my stepdad is actually still alive, who died in 2019. So like,
sorry.
No, thank you. But memoir can't keep up with life. Like life is just changing so fast. It's sort of like the time question that Melissa was asking earlier. Like, I guess that was also a reminder of, like all these, it's like the minute the book was published, it was even, it was already becoming outdated in terms of that issue of my stepdad and then things with my mom. No, my mom fell. She had a similar issue with falling, but she did not have dementia. But she was so profoundly depressed and anxious from falling, and it just created a situation where she was totally reclusive. And so she fell in July of 2018, and she had 24-hour care at her house until September 27th of 2020 when she died. So, and she only left the house 5 times. And this was a woman who, like, if you read the chapter, The Worry Machine, she was back and forth from Cape Cod to Boston, 3-4 times a week. She was in her studio doing her art. She created thousands of paintings, showed and sold her work internationally, like read the New Yorker cover to cover, went to shows, loved New York City, like, oh my gosh, like it like pulsed in her. Like it was just, she came alive thinking about New York, thinking about art, thinking about just, going to theater. I mean, to her, like the curtain opening was like, it was like the sunshine, like it was just, she was a culture vulture, and she looked a lot like Iris Apfel, if you know that person. She's just very eccentric, really interesting woman. She read the entire book, except for the epilogue. She read the entire book. She was extremely supportive of my work. She loved the book. She didn't read the epilogue, though, because I really wrote the epilogue to deal with the fact that things had really changed, which you'll see when you read that part. I think she'd be sad if she read the epilogue. I really do. It's sort of like the same thing of, she'd probably understand it in the way my dad would have, but it would have made her sad. I mean, I talk about her being basically dead in it, even though she hadn't yet died, because her life had just shriveled, so yeah, that's a good question though about her. Any other questions?
Yeah, we're coming to an end here, but let's do last. Any other questions?
Yes, I have just a comment. It's not really a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to say, I thought it was very fascinating how you talk about grief, or like you don't talk about it, but you just acknowledge it. And I could see that a lot in the epilogue. And I think, yeah, your mother didn't get to read it, but like I feel like that was a part where you like show that you grieved already, that your mom, like you had already acknowledged that your mom was dying. And I thought that was something very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good to see you. It's always good to see you.
Thank
And
you.
it's so cool that you were in my class when the book was just about, to launch, and then I was on a book tour and then missing classes and coming back to a pandemic. I mean, and now you're with me again, which is so cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's definitely like kind of how to navigate a journey of grief, and yeah, and just how it's so circuitous. It's like there's just it's such a broken path in a way. Yeah, I think a lot still the past year I've thought a lot about my mother's grief for her own parents, my grandparents, who I loved and who she was quite close to. And even into her 80s, I mean, she totally missed her parents. So I think she would understand that I was I mean, in fact, I think that's part of the reason she didn't want to see me at the end, was she didn't want to deal with the saying goodbye piece and knowing that I would be saying goodbye, because she dealt with that as a mother. Like, I'm actually kind of trying to unravel this in this memoir that I'm writing. Yeah, so I mean, it's a good question, and it's a good comment about kind of anticipatory grief for her. Yeah, these are such good questions and comments. This is really cool.
Thank you, Deborah, for doing this.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm just so happy that you've created a space where this kind of thing is possible. For authors, for readers, it's just the coolest thing. I'm super grateful to the Pat Conroy Literary Center and to you for zooming and grooving and getting this all technologically working well, since that is not my forte at all. And to people who are near and dear to me and people who I've just met tonight, I so appreciate that you wanted to be here tonight.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Maybe Deborah will get to see you in person at some point.
I would love that. That would be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And any of you, please feel free to just reach out to me anytime. I'd be happy to talk by phone or email, that kind of thing. Happy to. Did
everyone see Deborah's website in the chat? Okay, just making sure everyone got that. Okay, all right. Well, Deborah, do you want to say anything else before?
I think that's all. Keep writing, keep reading. It's the best way to figure yourself out in the world, that's for sure. And it's always available to us. That's what's wonderful about it. It's pretty free and freeing. So yeah, use your voice. That's the thing that I always want to remind students to do, and I just think it's huge. It's that's our responsibility as human beings, is to just to use our voice for good and for social justice and for creativity. So,
well, our last comment for the night is from Brian, who said, "Deb, I love you to pieces."
I went to high school and junior high, and was it junior high? I guess, yeah, junior high with Brian. Oh gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. Mwah. You're the best.
Wow, I love you, Deb. Thank you so much.
I love you too, because you're so easy to have such deep conversations with. Actually, Brian is someone I've talked to a lot about issues of racism and the things that are going on lately, and then just some of the issues I had to deal with my book, with my dad's racism, and how the editor wanted to handle some of that, and he was just a wonderful sounding board for these really complex issues. I feel so super lucky. Like for students, I just want you to know, like it's really cool for you to see me still in touch with someone from high school. And this is a high school that was like basically like half black, half white, and really doing some very progressive things in the country that at the time we didn't think were so, we didn't think it was enough. We didn't think it was progressive. We, you know, we wanted more and more and more. And now I look back though, and I think, yeah, it was by no means perfect, but wow, did we learn how to have challenging conversations across race and across other kinds of complex social identities and issues, such that we could still have them today, when it's so, at a time that's so hard in the world to do that. So I'm appreciative of like where I've come from with that, and that that I can also pass that legacy on to my students, and that I mean, and Brian, you're doing that with your students, and it's like coming full circle, and we have to get together and figure out some collaboration to do something together, because obviously we should do that.
Absolutely. I'm looking
So, yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deborah.
Have a
We'll see you.
fantastic evening. Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.